UFO IP. Which is a professional group of highly educated UFO slash paranormal field investigators.
Check out Night Dream's website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com.
Hey, this is Gary from Night Dreams Talk Radio. I want to welcome a new sponsor to our show, PhoenixShaving.com. I know what you're thinking, right? Oh, another disposable razor company. Well, the fact is they're not. You remember the razors that your father and his father shaved with? Did you ever notice they didn't have, well, the embarrassing razor burn or ingrowing hairs or the razor bumps after they shaved? Did you notice they were also relaxed after they were done shaving? Well, the problem is these big corporations want to sell you razor after razor after razor. Think about how much money you spend a year on razors. Or do you use electric razor? Then you're going to find out what razor burn is. So you need to check out Phoenix Shaving Starter Kits. They come complete with the soap, the brush, and a 2.5-month supply of blades. And the most important part of it, an all-metal razor, built to last generations. So, hey, you can donate it to one of your sons when they turn 18. Check out PhoenixShaving.com and tell them that Gary from Night Dream said, hey, I want one. That's PhoenixShaving.com now. And you're listening to me, Gary, on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Hey, tonight we got a special guest. And are you there tonight, special guest?
I certainly am. Ready to go.
Okay, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Okay, well, why don't you tell everybody what you do?
I write about UFOs. I just had my first book published last year, The Close Encounters Man. It's a biography of everybody's favorite UFO dad, Dr. J. Allen Hynek.
Oh, wow. So what actually got you, to get into actually writing a book about UFOs?
Oh, I like how you just jump in with the big question first.
I'm sorry. I can ask you another question. How long have you been married?
No, it's fine. I should mention, my name is Mark O'Connell. I've been a UFO buff all my life. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I can still remember what I think is my first conscious memory was when this science fiction show premiered on TV back in the early 1960s. It was called The Outer Limits, and it was basically a Monster of the Week show. It was a science fiction anthology series, and I can remember, for some weird reason, my mom had that show tuned in for the premiere episode, and I would have been about 3 years old, I think. And this scary, glowing alien monster appeared on screen, on our TV screen, and I ran upstairs and I hid, and I wouldn't come out until my mom could assure me that the monster had gone. So that's how it started. And then I just became more and more interested in anything to do with aliens and UFOs and rocket ships and space travel and science fiction. I used to have this recurring dream when I was a kid, and I've since found that a lot of other people interested in UFOs have had a similar dream in their childhoods. But I used to have this dream where I'd be standing out on our back porch steps at the family home, looking up in the sky, and the sky was just filled with invading spaceships, and they were all heading towards me. And I never knew in this dream if they were coming just for me or if they were coming just to attack everyone. But I knew it was an alien attack. I had that dream over and over again when I was a little kid.
Oh, wow.
And then a little later on, see, you asked where this came from, and I said this is a big question, so I'm giving you the long answer.
Oh, please do.
So, okay. My mom was also a volunteer librarian at our town library, and she would take me in with her sometimes. And it was a small library, but they had one section of the library that was devoted to paranormal stuff. So there was Frank Edwards' UFOs, Serious Business, and there was Eric Van Daniken's Chariots of the Gods, and all the Bermuda Triangle books and the Bigfoot books, and of course the UFO books. And I just always headed straight for that bookshelf whenever my mom took me into the library with her. And would just read those books from cover to cover. And, there probably weren't that many books, and I probably read each one of them 5 or 6 times. But I was just completely hooked. I was completely fascinated with this kind of stuff. Just really fired my imagination. And that's kind of how it all took root, all these things happening when I was, really pretty young. It was a really early interest, and it never faded away. It's only grown stronger over the years. And so how I came to write the book was about 6 years ago or so. I just for fun, I started writing a blog about UFOs called High Strangeness. You can find it at highstrangenessufo.com. And was just having fun, just sort of writing about kind of the weirder, offbeat aspects of the UFO phenomenon. And, when you write a blog, I'm sure it's exactly the same as doing a radio show. You constantly need new material, right? So I was always online just searching for interesting UFO topics to write about. And I came across a website for CUFOS, the Center for UFO Studies. This was a UFO study foundation in Chicago that had been founded back in the 1980s by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who had been pretty famous for being the Air Force's UFO consultant on Project Blue Book. Well, I was living part-time in Chicago at the time and thought, holy cow, this foundation is literally like 5 miles from where I live. So I contacted the director, Dr. Mark Rodiger, and just kind of started pestering him for an invitation to come and check out the CUFOS files. And eventually he invited me to come in and look, and it's just honestly, it was a little disappointing. It's just a whole room full of bookshelves and beat-up old filing cabinets in Mark's basement, but it's got all these old files from Dr. Hynek's UFO work. And I was just fascinated by everything I found in his basement, and after a couple of visits, Mark just mentioned, he said, I've read your blog and I like your writing. And he said, we've always kind of been looking for someone to write the definitive story of Dr. Hynek's career, and I wonder if you'd be interested. And I was, of course, I didn't hesitate for a second. Of course I'm interested. That sounds like a dream job. And it just so happened that I didn't have any major writing projects going on at the time, and this seemed like a perfect thing to dedicate my energy to, and so I decided to do it, and that's how it all got started.
Wow, yeah. Well, going back, how you mentioned that one TV show kind of like got it all going for you. Remember the old TV show V?
Oh yeah, I love that show.
Yeah, that's what kind of got me into it. I watched that, and I was so disappointed when that show got canceled.
Yeah, me too.
But you know how many people it actually even affected people, because it's got people thinking, well, maybe we have aliens walking among us. After that show came out.
Yeah, and they remade that show just a couple of years ago. I mean, that's how popular it was.
Oh yeah. Anything right now, to do with like UFOs, it is hot. It goes in cycles, like ghost hunting and, which that's still popular, but not like it was. And, for me on my show, it just went funny a couple months ago. After I had Peter Davenport on, I started getting all these people, emailing for the show saying, hey, get more people on about UFOs. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, thank you for doing that. I'm glad to be benefiting from that.
Well, can you give us a little bit about the book? And
Sure,
I've given a lot away. I mean, hopefully you're not like I was telling you about before we came on there. Like when I had one guest on, he wanted to talk about his book, and then I got him on the air, and he would absolutely refused to talk about his book, and that was a very interesting night. I had to talk about The Walking Dead, vampires, zombies for 2 hours. Boy, I had to use my brain to think about every one of those movies I watched 100 times each.
Well, I'm not so much into zombies, although I have to say, I did see a really cool zombie movie just a couple nights ago that I can totally recommend. It's on Netflix. It's called Cargo, and it stars Martin Freeman. And it's a really kind of a low-key, low-tech kind of a zombie movie, but I really enjoyed it a lot, so I would recommend it. It's a Netflix original.
Okay.
But back to my book.
Yeah, back to your book. Your book's what's important.
Where I left off. So Mark Rodiger sort of gave me this invitation to write a book about Dr. Hynek's career, and at that point, I was familiar with Dr. Hynek's career as a UFO investigator. I was familiar with the fact that he had developed the whole Close Encounters UFO classification system. That was his work. And I knew that his work had inspired the Steven Spielberg movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So those were the things I knew about him, and I thought, well, yeah, a pretty interesting guy. He'll be fun to write a book about. But early on, I just started thinking, but, he was also a professional astronomer and educator from the 1930s all the way up to the 1980s. And I decided I wanted to look into that side of his life as well, because I thought, I bet you there are probably going to be a lot of instances where his career as an astronomer informed his career as a UFO hunter and vice versa. And I thought that would be a really interesting way to look at his life, to kind of learn about who he was as a scientist and at the same time learn about who he was as a ufologist. So that was the approach I took with the book. So I already had the UFO research well in hand, because I had access to all of Hynek's files at the CUFOS headquarters in Chicago. But then I also found pretty quickly that Dr. Hynek had taught astronomy at Northwestern University for much of his career. And Northwestern University is a couple miles from my Chicago house in the opposite direction. So I started going to the Northwestern archives in the basement of their library, and the archivists there were just so excited to be working on such a neat project. They were wonderful people. They bent over backwards to find anything I needed in their archive.